Imagine if you could combine the very essence of your being with another person. How do you think it would make you feel? How do you think it would affect your views on relationships? Well, as humans, we don't need to worry about this. However, in Steven Universe, a race of aliens known as gems can do just that. Fusion in Steven Universe is a very complex magic system. It's used in the show to represent many different kinds of relationships, despite many people deeming it as a direct allegory for adult intimacy. While I won't be going over all of the in-universe mechanics of fusion, I'd like to break down what each kind of fusion represents in the show's context. To do that, I'll be breaking fusions into 6 different categories: platonic, romantic, toxic, corrupted, forced, and Steven. And don't worry, I'll explain the last one later. But first, a bit of explanation is in order. There are a few rules of fusion that we'll need to understand. Firstly, gems need to be in the same mental state to maintain a fusion. That mental state does not have to be a positive one. Secondly, fusing is regarded as a very intimate process between gems. A lot of trust and emotional connection is involved in the process. Lastly, cross-gem fusion is deemed as a taboo by much of gem kind. This alone is meant to represent the real-life struggles same-sex and interracial couples face. So, keep these 3 things in mind throughout the video, especially the last one, as I'll really only be discussing cross-gem fusions. With that done, we can start discussing the first category: platonic fusion. Most fusions fall into this category, often being used to accomplish a specific goal or to gain a boost of power for a fight. This type of fusion represents the bonds between friends. They show that when friends work together, they can achieve much greater things than either of them could on their own. A great example of this is Opal. In Giant Woman, Opal is formed to take advantage of her range and enhanced power. However, when Pearl and Amethyst fuse to create Opal, they aren't just fusing to protect Steven. They're using their shared feelings and emotions to work together. And while platonic fusions aren't permanent, that isn't to say that the friendship it represents is temporary. For example, Amethyst and Steven share an unbreakable bond. It's just that when they form Smoky Quartz, what they admire about each other is highlighted and enhanced, giving their friendship a body. Just like how when friends work together, their strengths compound together, creating something greater than the sum of its parts. This is a good time to bring up another interesting design feature of fusion. Often, the design of a fusion will directly reflect what the participants see in each other. For example, Smoky Quartz having an odd number of arms reflects how Amethyst and Steven see each other as the oddballs of the crystal gems. This design choice is just so cool and interesting to me, and is a good way to literally give friendship a form. If platonic fusion is friendship given form, then romantic fusion is love given form. This type of fusion is the most direct allegory for relationships, but how it depicts them depends on the relationship. Garnet, for example, is almost always fused, while Steven and Connie prefer to remain as their own people. However, both of these relationships are just as valid as the other. In Garnet's case, Ruby and Sapphire being able to maintain fusion nearly permanently shows how emotionally connected and synced they are. Garnet represents a relationship where 2 people have completely devoted themselves to being together, like marriage. On the other hand, Stevani isn't formed often. Steven and Connie still love each other, but they haven't reached the emotional maturity to handle that commitment. Romantic fusion isn't even limited to 2 people. Fluorite is a fusion made of 6 gems, and she's even open to more, giving representation to polyamorous relationships. Romantic fusion isn't just used to represent love, it's used to represent the many ways love can be shown, and that you don't have to fit into a box for your relationship to be valid. While most fusions give form to the love and friendship between people, that isn't always the case. Toxic fusions are born from a shared hatred or lust for power. Malachite is the best example of this, being formed through Jasper and Lapis's pure hatred. Neither of them loved the other person, but that's not to say there was nothing alluring about the fusion itself. Lapis hated Jasper and enjoyed taking her anger out on her, while Jasper fell in love with the power the fusion had. But that's the danger of toxic relationships. When they're over, we tend to look back on just the good things, even if the things we thought were good still hurt us. Toxic fusions are meant to show how confusing a bad relationship can be, and how badly it can mess us up. Both Jasper and Lapis missed Malachite to a certain extent, with Lapis's final decision to stay unfused being a somewhat difficult choice for her. And in Jasper's case, she became completely addicted to the idea of fusing and the power it granted. But this type of fusion also shows that a failed relationship doesn't make someone an irredeemable person. That despite past failures, people can change and choose to be better. In the end, Lapis refused to fuse again, not just for her sake, but for Jasper's as well, proving that a toxic relationship can be overcome. However, in Jasper's case, this wasn't overcome so easily. Her lust for power became so out of control that she fused with a corrupted gem. This type of fusion isn't really a direct allegory to anything in the real world, and I think it can be viewed as an allegory for a few things. It represents the madness gained in a search for power, showing the lengths someone would go to get what they want. I think it could also be a way to show the feeling of being taken advantage of, as the corrupted gem can only really feel fear in this situation, and is nearly powerless. And lastly, Jasper becomes corrupted through this fusion, representing how a blind search for power can only lead to pain for everyone involved. Speaking of a blind search for power, forced fusions are a result of Homeworld's desperate attempts to gain an advantage against Earth. These gem experiments combine shards of gems, causing them to take disgusting, eldritch forms. I feel that these types of fusions are meant to represent a more hypothetical feeling. Losing your mind, your body, the very essence of yourself, invokes a very specific kind of dread. The intimate nature of fusion adds to this. Imagine if the most intimate acts of humans were twisted and churned into an amalgam of horror, barely recognizable as something human. These fusions exist to invoke fear into the audience, and to show the lengths Homeworld went to take back Earth. They're meant to be the embodiment of fear. Now, to end on a lighter note, let's talk about Steven. While he may not seem like a fusion in the traditional sense, he's a combination of his human self and his gem self. This is a very interesting and unique kind of fusion, and I feel like it represents the ties that keep us bound to our family. As people, our parents will always be a part of us, through our genes and our actions. In Steven, this manifests a lot more literally. He's always fixing things his mom caused, taking the blame for her wrongdoings simply because he holds her gem. Her mistakes remain a part of him, just as her gem remains a part of him. But that isn't to say that Rose is all that Steven is. He may hold her gem, but he's still his own person. He deals with things in his own way, and Rose doesn't inhabit that gem anymore. I think this is a very powerful allegory to familial relationships in real life. Despite the fact that our parents are a part of who we are now, that doesn't mean we can't be our own people. No matter the relationship with your parents, you are always free to be your own person. You can do what you want, when you want, and if you have to clean up your parents' mistakes, do it for your own sake. Overall, fusion is a very complex metaphor. It represents a ton of different things, and it does so really well in my opinion. It's one of my favorite parts of Steven Universe, and there's just so many layers to it that don't get talked about enough. So, hopefully, I did a good job explaining how I view fusion, and then maybe I changed how you view the show from now on. Thank you so much for watching, I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please consider leaving a like and subscribing. If you have thoughts, leave them in the comment section down below. I really hope to see you in my next video, but until then, see ya!